Bernie Sanders went to a Stalinist kibbutz. It would be irresponsible of me not to notice that. And his ideology and his methodology is Stalinist. I don't call him a Stalinist because he's just a stupid liberal Democrat. I call him a Stalinist because he is a Stalinist. Or what about Tlaib and the things that she has said, and Omar and the things that she has said? These are bigots, flat out. These are Islamists, flat out. I had a caller the other day. The guy gets on. He's sort of deceived about coming on, and he says, you know, the Muslims this and the Muslim that. And he said, and the Muslims, they all look alike to me anyway. I said, all right, you pig. You use my platform. You sit on your ass at home. You take responsibility for nothing that comes out of your mouth that would blow my show off the air, that would destroy my reputation. You project it, you try to project it onto me and my program. I don't talk this way. I don't think this way. And so I had his call effectively blocked. In other words, expunged, which is why we have not a 30-second delay, not a 60-second delay. We have a 90-second delay because people used to call up and call me stuff as a Jew, which was so bad we couldn't get to it fast enough. And so the company said, you need a longer delay so you can deal with it. But when somebody calls like that, there's something wrong with them. And they're intending to bring down me, my show, and it's a reflection on conservatism, on republicanism, on constitutionalism, that I'm not going to let some pig, some slob do to me or our movement. That's why these young Republicans need to be condemned, and they are being condemned. But it also does what? It exposes the hypocrisy of Politico, the hypocrisy of the left, the hypocrisy of Democrats. These guys are calling people Hitler. Who else calls people Hitler? You watch a Sunday show. I mean, how many times do they use Hitler on Donald Trump, which is my point here? What about the language used by the Democrats on any given Sunday on one of the network or cable shows against President Trump? When he enforces the immigration laws, cuts programs or spendings, gives a speech, and so forth. I could go on and on. I wrote extensively about this. You may be aware of it in Unfreedom of the Press. Of course, there are times when such analogies against certain individuals or movements actually fit. Bernie Sanders went to a Stalinist kibbutz. It would be irresponsible of me not to notice that. And his ideology and his methodology is Stalinist. I don't call him a Stalinist because he's just a stupid liberal Democrat. I call him a Stalinist because he is a Stalinist. Or what about Tlaib and the things that she has said, and Omar and the things that she has said? These are bigots, flat out. These are Islamists, flat out. They're Hamas supporters, flat out. So you shouldn't ignore the reality of some of this. But then to project names like that onto people who are not, you've got to use your brain. You've got to have discretion. You've got to use reason and rationality. The media, why do they keep promoting what Bannon says and what Tucker says and Candace Owens says? Because they want to. Because they're exploiting it. Because they want the whole world to think that's MAGA, that's Trump, that's conservatives, that's Republicans, when it's not. But I'm also concerned about the cowardice among us. People should be condemning this, period. Not taking pictures with these guys, not platforming these guys, none of it. None of it. And I say, of course, there are times when such analogies against certain individuals or movements actually fit, but not against the president and his millions of supporters. Indeed, that is nothing but agitprop. Remember? Chapter 4, language on power, agitprop. Lenin, the early 1900s, he developed it. It's the combination of agitating for action and propaganda. Agitprop. And it's part of the problem. The corporate media, numerous media websites, and desperate podcasters, among others, are a huge part of all of this. The cancer is, in fact, spreading. In the meantime, I tell Politico, I look forward to reading the text Politico will undoubtedly secure from elements within the Democrat Party to prove how ubiquitous this problem is, Right, Politico? Oh, and this isn't about free speech. I'm not talking about the First Amendment and government action. I'm talking about we, the people, defending our civil society and our way of life from an evil and darkness that threatens both, and those individuals and institutions that are spreading them. And this is worthy of a much larger discussion in the future. But the entities that have, talked about this young Republican messaging back and forth, 8 or 9 months worth from all over the country, the participants, I guarantee you Politico will never do that. That is, expose the other side. Can you imagine the messaging from Tlaib, the messaging from Omar to CARE and to some of their favorite media in the Middle East? Can you imagine that? I don't even think the media would care if they have it. Can you imagine some of the messaging from Bernie Sanders over the years as a Marxist and Islamist and a Stalinist? No, I don't think you'd see much of that either. No. So it's true that somebody from the inside was pulling this stuff together and gave it to Politico, and that's that. But isn't it interesting? I don't know if Politico got any stuff from left-wingers or not, but I'm not comfortable that they would do anything with it. And I can assure you that Politico, Mediaite, the Drudge Report, none of them are going to change their practices when it comes to promotion of individuals. Look at the promotion now of Marjorie Taylor Greene. 3 minutes ago, they hated her as a kook, as a whatever. Now they're promoting her because she's trashing Donald Trump, because she's siding with the Democrats on the quote-unquote government shutdown, because she's attacking the president on his ICE policies and on health care. And so now the media have figured out, as Rush always says, the way they turn people is to praise them, So people who were previously viewed as nuts and extremists and radicals, everything they have said doesn't matter anymore. Now they promote them.
For all this and much more, sign up for Levin TV.